I would like to introduce today Mrs. Neerja Birla, who's a passionate educationist and a mental health champion. She is the founder and chairperson of the Aditya Birla Education Trust that established the Aditya Birla World School Academy. The Aditya Birla Integrated School, the Aditya Birla Education Academy, and Empower was all founded by her. Empower is a revolutionary movement that is attempting to create a mental health positive ecosystem by spreading awareness about mental health, alleviating stigma, and providing holistic and quality care to individuals from all sections of society. Mrs. Birla's ongoing endeavor is to empower those suffering from mental health issues and their families so that they can lead dignified and meaningful lives in society without any discrimination, fear, or shame. Her efforts as a mental health activist have truly brought about a paradigm shift in India's attitude towards mental health after decades of stigmatization. She is the worthy recipient of a multitude of prestigious awards. She is also a committed fitness and outdoor sports enthusiast, loves reading and listening to music, and is extremely fond of traveling and trekking. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am, to the BW Wellbeing of BW Business World on the Mind Body Soul Show. Ma'am, so my first question to you would be, how have the last 8 months been for you personally and professionally because of this pandemic?
So, professionally, of course, I think all of us have worked a lot. The team especially has been working around the clock at Empower. We've done a lot of things during the pandemic, which really required everyone to put in the extra effort. So we launched a helpline right at the beginning, which was in collaboration with the BMC and the state government. That is something that we literally opened overnight. And that's really done well and continues to do well. We've also extended our services to the police, to the BMC. So we've been working around the clock. So I think professionally, it's been, there's been a lot of work, touch wood, in the sense we've been able to reach out to many people. So that's been good. And I think personally as well, for me, I think it's been a time where I really got to, initially when the lockdown obviously was very strict, we spent a lot of time together. I spent a lot of time with my children. My older daughter has been in LA, but the younger two have been here. So we spent a lot of time together, and that was really nice. Other than that, I think it also, allowed you to do things which otherwise you may not have done. So I took to cooking, which I normally don't do. Spent a lot of time on my spiritual study, which was very nice. Of course, fitness and exercise is anyway a part of my routine, but spent a little bit more time there. So it was really nice because I think it kind of, the rest of the noise around quietened, and that really helped, focus more on your own thoughts and you as a person. So I think, that introspection and spending time with yourself actually helped know yourself better. So I think it was a sort of a rich experience for me. I really enjoyed it actually.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, what is Empower all about?
Empower is an initiative actually that we started 5 years ago, and it basically we're working on different touch points. So one is about creating awareness, where we're trying to create awareness about mental health and alleviate the stigma around it, so that more and more people talk about it, dialogue is created, and people feel empowered to actually seek help so that they're able to lead fulfilled lives and dignified lives. We also offer clinical care, which is psychiatric and counseling services for people who need it. We also do a lot of outreach programs, so reaching out to different target communities like NGOs and schools, colleges, corporates. Again, trying to alleviate stigma, creating awareness, increasing mental health literacy basically. We're also into capacity building. So we have some online programs, reaching out to counselors from rural parts of the country. So and then we have the helpline as well. So there are different things that we are doing at Empower, all basically to do with mental health, creating awareness, clinical care, increasing literacy and capacity building.
Okay, ma'am. So I was just wondering that Empower, the name, like we can say mind power or mental power, or we can also say that you are empowering people. Empower. So you're empowering people. Is this name got some double meaning?
That's very much it, actually. So when we were coining the word, we actually had all these things in mind when we thought of it. One was that it is for the mind, so it's mind power.
Yes.
It is to empower people, so it is for that. And then it is your mental health power. So it's pretty much what you said. You really hit the nail on the head.
Ma'am, what are some of the challenges in breaking the stigma around mental health?
Actually, the stigma itself is only a challenge. So, and it's tough. It's tough to break barriers because people traditionally, view mental health, mental illness as a personal failing.
Yes.
So people are not wanting to acknowledge it because they think that if they have a mental health condition, it means they have failed, which is not the case. So, breaking that barrier is very difficult. Creating awareness about it because people are just closed. Culturally, people are just closed to it. So, therefore, the stigma itself is such a barrier that to get across it, to convince people that, it's okay not to be okay. It's not a personal failing. It doesn't mean that you have failed as an individual and you are not your mental illness. If you have, you will have a depressive disorder, but doesn't mean that you are depression. Your depression is different from you. So, trying to get that across to people is the toughest part.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, this is a kind of a personal question. Do you feel that you have evolved as a person while working for Empower, working with people?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the road is always under construction and one is constantly evolving. And I think I think every experience, good or bad, teaches you something in life and shapes you to become the person that you are becoming. So I think, I feel I'm evolving, literally growing every single day from each of my interactions. Whether it is with my colleagues, whether it is with outsiders, the kind of work that we're doing, the feedback that we get. I think one is always trying to improve and, do better, evolve. So yeah, it's been I think it continues to be a really lovely and a very beautiful experience.
Okay, ma'am, you've evolved and you've achieved so much. So still you're very humble. How do you inculcate this humility? I was eating lunch today with my parents and my sister, and I asked my father, I was asking him if he knows you. He told me, I asked him that I'm going to interview ma'am, and he told me she's a very humble lady.
How sweet. That's really very sweet of your dad, but that's really very sweet.
Ma'am, but how do you inculcate this humility?
I think God's grace. Yeah, it is God's grace to be able to. I mean, I feel I'm really blessed that I'm able to, stay grounded. I think it's really God's grace, and I don't know. I guess I honestly believe that we're just a speck in the universe. So one of my most overwhelming moments generally happens when. When you're just standing under a starry sky and there's just no light, so other than the stars, and you just look up and that sight is so wondrous and you realize that you're such a tiny speck. I mean, you're so insignificant in the entire universe that why are we really making our problems out to be so big? Why are we making ourselves out to be so big? We're really nothing. And I think experiences like this, I think are very, very grounding. I love to trek. So every time I go to the mountains, that's a very grounding experience for me. I love the outdoors. So anything to do with nature and being in nature, I think, is a very grounding experience. So I think my love for nature is what helps ground me a lot. And luckily, again, by the grace of God, my closest people, my family, my children, my closest friends are the ones who really also are really sort of are my anchors in life, my parents. So I think one is blessed to have that support system also.
Yes.
In fact, I often joke that with my kind of ecosystem, there's no way that one can be, flying high anywhere. So I have nothing to worry.
Okay, ma'am, what is the role of social media in terms of one's mental wellness, both from a positive and a negative aspect?
So I think, if you look at the positives, I think social media is a great boon because
Yes.
honestly, during pandemic, had we not had access to social media, had we not had access to platforms like Zoom, we would have been far more isolated. At least social media gave us the opportunity to know what's happening around, right?
Yes.
So that's a really big advantage. Obviously, when you misuse anything or you overuse anything, like with anything else, right? If you don't have a balance, too much of anything is bad, right? So, I mean, similarly, if you're not balanced in your use of social media, then obviously it's going to have its repercussions and it's going to have negative effects. And I think one big one I see is, this difference, the difference that social media creates between your virtual world, what you're trying to project and what you're trying to present, and your real world. I think this disparity between virtual and real is what really, to my mind, I believe gives a lot of, it sort of germinates a lot of issues, because you're trying to project this very perfect world. You're trying to project a perfect you, a perfect world, a perfect surrounding to the world outside. And actually, nobody has anything perfect. I think perfection itself is a flawed concept.
Yes.
But when you're trying to project that perfection, and when you know that your life is actually far from perfect, that disparity and that that sort of disparity in the mind is what creates so much confusion for you in your mind. And I think that is what leads to a lot of mental health issues. Like, obviously, it creates anxiety, it creates low self-esteem. You're always in a space of, always your expectations are so much higher, you're always disappointed. So, and the exposure is just so much more than what it really needs to be sometimes. The exposure is, let's say, sometimes not age appropriate. So kids, teenagers, adolescents are not able to handle a lot of information that is coming at them. So I think it's multifactorial. But I think if we all learn to, kind of manage social media usage in a balanced manner, I think it can really, we can really harness its advantages.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, could you please share your thoughts on the theme of the video Suno Dekho Kaho?
So the theme, as the campaign says, is Suno Dekho Kaho, and our objective was to basically create awareness about mental health and encourage people to speak about it.
Yes.
So Suno, the Suno would be to exactly for that, hear what people have to say. There are sometimes you have friends and family who want to talk to you. So, listen to them, listen to their stories. Dekho is a lot of, sometimes there are lot of signs, a lot of red flags that go unnoticed. There's a lot of non-verbal communication which we very often overlook. So Dekho is to give that message that look around you and see what there is. See if there are any signs that you can pick up for yourself as well as for your loved ones. And Kaho is to basically urge people to speak up about it. Speak up about if you are facing any illness, if you are facing any difficult times, or if people around you are facing, then encourage them to speak about it. So that's why it's Suno Dekho Kaho. And it was very, very gracious of Mr. Bachchan to come on board and lend his voice to our campaign, because having such a strong personality talk about a cause like mental health really adds a lot of validity to it. So it was, I'm eternally grateful to him for that.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, do you think schools, colleges, and corporates need to be like sensitized about mental health issues in India?
Oh, absolutely. So most certainly, and that's what one of our crusades is, to sensitize them and to make them aware that there is a problem. Let's not brush it under the carpet. Let's do something about it, and we're here to help. So sensitization is very important, and particularly more in schools, because I think that if we start teaching the children early on about resilience, coping mechanisms, being more sensitive to mental health and its needs, as the generation grows up, by the time they reach teenage years, they will be well equipped with life skills and life coping mechanisms. So it's very imperative to actually start at a very young age.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, these days schools don't have psychology as a subject. Most schools, and
So we've actually come up with it's a Minds Matter curriculum that we've developed for schools, which is like a progressive curriculum starting from grade 1 and going up to grade 12.
yes,
And we do believe that if schools are able to put it as a part of their ongoing curriculum, so like a math or a physics or a language, just like a subject, it's an academic subject, we're really encouraging, and we really want more and more schools to adopt that.
okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you being a psychology student yourself in the past, what do you think about our nation when it comes to mental health overall, like in all generations?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? I lost the first part of the question.
No problem, ma'am. I was asking you that, like, you have so many like factors that in India where people are mentally ill and they don't know how to express it because of they feel people might make fun of them, people might mock them, people might humiliate them. So, ma'am, what do you feel that is the biggest issue that needs to be addressed?
I think stigma, because it is the stigma actually, and stigma works at two levels. One is the social stigma, which you face from the community and from society, but predominantly that we make up society. We are the ones who are part of the society. So the second stigma, which is actually the more important one and the more deep-rooted one, is a self-stigma. It's a self-perceived stigma that we feel, we ourselves don't want to acknowledge if we have an issue, because we take it as a personal failing. We feel we have failed as parents or as children or as individuals, because of which we have a mental health condition. We were not able to cope. So therefore it's, so that stigma is the first thing that we really need to break down and acknowledge and accept that it's really okay not to be okay. It's absolutely fine. It doesn't mean it's a personal failing.
Okay, ma'am. Fantastic, ma'am. Ma'am, what kind of initiatives have MPA been taking so far to spread awareness around mental health care in India?
So we've done a lot of things actually. We have like initiatives like a cycle ride, which we do every year. Then we have something called what's it called? I'm forgetting the name. Art. His name is just slipping my mind. Where we paint the walls actually. So we took up a wall right at Mumbai Central and Art Express, and we covered that with painting. So we had volunteers come and actually spend 2 days painting the walls. Then we have a lot of social media campaigns happening all the time, like say what we did with Mr. Bachchan just now. So we're constantly having those sort of campaigns. We also had some music fests twice in the last 5 years. Again, to get people on a common platform for a common cause. So we're doing a lot of initiatives to create awareness about mental health, advocacy, and spreading the word.
Ma'am, so MPA, if I'm not mistaken, is already in 4 cities. And are you all planning to expand your...
Yeah, we're wanting to open in Calcutta as well, actually. So
Okay,
hopefully in the next couple of months. Our plans were to open it earlier, but because of COVID, we couldn't. But now, if things start opening up, then we do want, our next center is in Calcutta.
Okay, ma'am, now during these COVID times and when everyone's full of fear, anxiety, uncertainty, what would be a message you would like to give to people to keep their mental health good and keep themselves happy and not depressed?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think if we can start viewing this new space, this new age, this new experience as a banner for change, and let's look at the positives of it. Of course, it has been very challenging. There's no doubt about it. But there's always some good in every cloud has a silver lining. So there's always some good in situations. And let's try and look at the glass half full instead of half empty. And let's see this as a green light. Why are we seeing it as a red light? So let's see this banner of change as something positive. And maybe we all, in our different ways, needed this kind of a change in our lives for something bigger to happen, for something better to happen. So I always believe that the old always gives way to the new. So maybe this is a time when, some old patterns for each of us needed to change and with new ones to set in. So let's look at it as a banner of change, which is here for a reason and a good reason.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, do you feel that there's a higher reason or consciousness for this pandemic or something which we don't understand, or something that's happening to Mother Earth, which is, some people are saying we are being punished for ruining our flora and fauna and everything?
So see, it depends on each one's faith, each one's belief. And I think it's each one is entitled to one's own belief and faith system, whatever works as a compass for you in your life. But yes, certainly, during the days when there was just no traffic, the skies had really cleared up and the pollution levels were just so low. It was unbelievable. I think for most people, I don't think any one of us, even the older generation, had ever seen Bombay in such clean light. And I think that's a phenomena that happens world over. So, yes, it was definitely a good time to actually, clean away the cobwebs. Most certainly. It was really beautiful. It was very nice.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you're doing so much of good work, like for people, you're helping them to accept themselves also the way they are, because some people put on a facade of who they are, who they are not. So, because they feel that society and other people, their peers, parents, friends, even their children, might make fun of them. So, what would you like to say? How do we break this facade? How do we enable people or to encourage people to come up with a lighter feeling about this and not take it so seriously and just admit it?
So I think you're going to work on yourself. It doesn't happen. I'm sure it doesn't happen overnight. You have to work on yourself and believe in yourself and believe that you are the best version of yourself, and then work towards it. So if there are certain bits about you that you don't like, right? So say if there are certain traits that you don't like, then why not go about it in a methodical manner and work at that habit, chip away at it till you become what you want to become. So I think if we all introspect and take responsibility for ourselves and make ourselves the way we want to be, then you take pride in who you are and who you've become, and then you will want to be genuine to yourself. You have to believe that you are what you want to be. And so you have to be genuine to yourself. You have to be genuine to your feelings and not feel apologetic about the way you're feeling, or if you want something, you really have to just have the faith. And I think things like say mindfulness, practices, spiritual practices, like say reading the Gita. I think things like that are tools that really help in start believing in yourself. Maybe investing time in doing something that you like say for somebody else, because I do think that the kind of fulfillment that you get when you actually reach out to somebody, that joy is something else. So maybe spend a little bit of time doing a selfless activity, and that joy that it gives you feel good about yourself. So little things like that go a long way in inculcating those habits.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you do such good work. You look after people's mental health. You make sure that they have a good life ahead. But like some people, they just put themselves into a shell. How are they going to like come out of that shell? Sometimes some psychiatrists also can't get them out of their shell. How do these? They're not introverts. I won't say introverts, but people who just go into a shell. How to break
Yeah.
that barrier?
So it's tough. I think little bit at a time, one day at a time. I think the first thing would be to probably acknowledge and accept that yes, that you have gone into a shell, and then work at it one by one, little by little, one day at a time. I think small baby steps. I don't think that you should expect that if you've gone into a shell, then a week later you're going to be out partying.
Yes.
That's not going to happen. So why set unrealistic goals for yourself? But probably, one day at a time. So if you just don't go out, maybe one day try going out for half an hour, then maybe, half an hour for a week, then maybe 1 hour, or interact with people, start interacting with one person at a time. Make sure you're not meeting anybody who can be a trigger for you or who's going to make you feel worse about yourself. Be in a community, be with people whom you feel safe with, you're not going to be judged. So I think working at it in small bits and measures, setting realistic goals for yourself, which is not like too much out of the comfort zone. So I think that way you can help yourself come out of the shell.
Fantastic, ma'am. Ma'am, just my last question.
Yes.
What would you like to say to our viewers and our readers about mental health, about how they should open up, and if they have problems, they should open up without any guilt or humiliation, and how they can stay positive during this pandemic?
Like I said, we really believe at Empower. I believe that, and this is a message that I think, one can sort of really live by, is that it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay not to seek help. So the first thing is to understand and to know that it's really all right if you are not feeling well. If you have fever, you're not going to condemn yourself. So like that, if you have a mental health condition, why do you condemn yourself? We need to know that it's not a personal failing. So we have to know that it's okay not to be okay. And that's the first message that I'd like to give everybody. And the other thing is that I'd like to say that, like I said earlier, is that let's look at the glass half full instead of half empty. There are challenges, but we are coping with the challenges. We're trying our level best to cope with the challenges. But that doesn't mean that you're not entitled to have a lighter moment. You're not entitled to, have a sense of humor. So have those light moments also. Let's look at this, like I said, as a banner for positive change. And everything happens in life for a reason. I do believe that. And I'm sure there is some good that is going to happen to you as well.
Ma'am, sorry, I'm just asking one last question. Ma'am, you said that making selflessly helping people make you happier. So somebody was talking to me the other day. They told me that we release a hormone called oxytocin whenever we help someone, or we feel we've made a change in someone's life, or we made them happier. So, ma'am, how does that work basically? Like these SSRIs, dopamine, oxytocin, how do these?
So there are four feel-good hormones actually, and we call it our dose of happiness. So there's dopamine, there's oxytocin, there's serotonin, and there's endorphin. And different activities that you do release different hormones. These four different hormones. So it could be, say for example, if you're indulging in an activity that you really enjoy, there is a hormone that you will release. When you meet people, you go and hug a loved one, then you're releasing oxytocin. That's a love hormone. So suppose if you've achieved something and you feel good about it, it's an exhilaration. You're releasing dopamine. So like that, there are different. When you exercise, for example, and that high that you feel after exercise, after a physical activity, is endorphin. So different activities lead to release of different hormones of these four, and you need all these four to basically to have good, robust mental health. So it's called our dose of happiness.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time, and we are very grateful to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.